everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. Today I wanted to talk about the League of Legends tutorial and how Riot have kind of said they're going to be updating this and what I would want to see from a new tutorial, and also just kind of look at the old one and say, why is this bad? Why do players look at this and say, wow, the old tutorial is really, really garbage? So first, looking at the old tutorial, it has a lot of problems, but not really because of the reasons players think it does. So a lot of people, obviously, the Thornmail on Ashe thing, everyone immediately defaults to that as why the tutorial's bad. You'd never build Thornmail on Ashe, that's terrible, why would you do that? And Riot have explained why they made that decision, because provided you can auto-push the wave in that basic tutorial, you can't lose. Thornmail basically made it so that even if you have no idea what you're doing, eventually you can push down and end the game. So that kind of makes sense. Obviously, yeah, it does tell the players, buy this item on this specific champion because we told you to, and that sounds like a good idea. But at the end of the day, I don't think that's something that really teaches players, yeah, no, that's a good idea, just build Thornmail. And that's not the biggest problem that the tutorial system had. In fact, the basic tutorial, I feel, actually does a really good job of on-roading players who have never played a MOBA before and kind of teaching them, okay, what should you be doing in League of Legends? How do you physically play the game? How do I cast a spell or move or auto-attack? Those sorts of things, and gives you a very gentle on-road to objectives and other things that you need to do in the game. So in that sense, the basic tutorial is great. Now, the advanced tutorial is a problem because it threw way too much at the player all at once. It just kind of drops you in a game and says go, and then every so often a pop-up will appear, but you don't even know. You're not actively walking up and trying to get them to appear. They just kind of show up and say, stay behind your minions, or that's a tower, you don't want to do that, or this is a jungle monster, try to kill it. But you're like, that guy looks intimidating, I don't want to fight that. So it doesn't do enough to help players learn things. It just kind of drops you in a game and says, go, have fun. But I don't know what my champion does. I don't know what any of the champions I'm playing against do. I don't know anything. So it doesn't really help you learn. In fact, the only way that players really learn to play this game is through the community. Because League is a very, very community-based game, interestingly enough. Because it's sort of the case of a lot of the game is sort of inherited knowledge. You don't learn to jungle because Riot taught you how to jungle. You probably learned to jungle by having a friend who knows how to jungle teach you how to jungle. You didn't learn the meta build for Ashe or for Ryze or for Gangplank by Riot telling you what to build. You learned it because a friend told you, no, here's what you want to build on your champion. Here's how you maybe want to play this champion. Those are the kinds of things that I'm talking about when I say it's kind of the learning process is more community-based. People need to be telling you things, or you need to be going out and looking for the information on your own time, like looking up a Mobifier guide or something. And now this is totally fine if it's, you know, if you're brand new to the game and you really have a desire to learn things. The problem with this is that you have to be putting in the extra effort, or you need to know a friend who's going to tell you what to do. Because otherwise, what's going to happen is, if I jump into a game and I don't know what to build, I don't know what to do, I don't have any idea of what the basics of this game are beyond just moving and casting spells, well, I'm going to feed in every game, and I'm probably not going to have very much fun with it, and I'm just going to leave, because I don't have another friend who plays the game, or a friend who has time to teach me the game. And Riot aren't telling me anything how to do anymore, because I've already played through the tutorial and got whatever I could out of it, so I guess I'm done with this game. And that's kind of the problem that we have, is that it's great that it's very community-based, because I think especially when you find a new player in your game, I think for the most part the community is willing to help them learn, to kind of teach them, yo, so you don't want to build that item on Yorick, for example, instead you want to be going with this. So that's kind of cool, but it doesn't help new players when they don't have friends, or especially if they end up against someone who's just having a bad day or who's really toxic, who isn't willing to teach them or help them learn. So the best thing, so what I'm getting at here is that is what makes it hard to make a tutorial. First, because the community will always change things. So for example, Runan's Hurricane used to be the rush item for Ashe. You would go Runan's before anything else. You'd go BF into Runan's. That may or may not be the case now. I haven't played Ashe in a while, but that may or may not be the case now. So if that did change, Riot can't make the tutorial where Ashe builds Runan's first, because then players are saying, well, that's wrong. You shouldn't be doing that anymore. That's really bad. and then the tutorial is still just as bad as if Ashe was building Thornmail. Maybe a little bit better, but that's sort of a thing. Or jungling routes in particular. If Riot were to try and make a jungling tutorial, well, what if the jungle is changing in this next couple of patches, where you won't get level 3 off of just buff, can't buff. You have to do some other things. Well, so that means that if Riot had made a tutorial previously that told you to go buff, can't buff, that tutorial is now wrong, because things have changed in the jungle. You can no longer do that. So effectively, Riot would have to be creating a brand new tutorial or updating their tutorial every single time a major game change happened. And that's really hard to do, especially because so much of this is community based, and it won't even change because of things that they did. It might change just because a player said, yo, so if you do this in this specific order, it's a much better jungling route. And people say, hey, great. Or if I'm playing a specific champion that, for example, has really good AoE clear, maybe I want to be doing Raptors super early in the game. Maybe I don't want to touch any of my buffs early on because this champion can get away with it. Well, then that's a problem, because the tutorial is just going to teach you how to play junglers in general, not this specific guy. And if you play that specific guy, you get flamed for not knowing the appropriate route. So it gets really hard to teach players how they should be playing the game, to teach players the meta things. So that shouldn't be what people are concerned about when it comes to tutorial. Instead, what we should be thinking of is, how can we create a tutorial that will teach players the raw basics of the game, the fundamentals of the game. And I'm talking like really, really fundamental, like moving, last hitting, buying items that aren't just Thornmail, right? Kind of trying to make a build. Using abilities. I remember for the longest time, I clicked the buttons to use my abilities. I would forget that I even had abilities. I just wanted to right-click guys. So the tutorial needs to teach you how to do those things, and especially what some of these champion abilities do. It needs to teach you how to jungle. I would love for there to be a tutorial that teaches players how to jungle, especially because with the new rune setup, you can basically jungle straight from level 1. I would love to have a tutorial that tells players how to do that, because that way you can start off with junglers and figure out from there. And speaking of junglers, I think the tutorial needs to inroad players towards learning the positions, the top, jungle, mid, bot, support, that sort of thing. And I know that's kind of like well, that's going to enforce the meta thing, but let's be real, players haven't talked about enforcing the meta as being a bad thing in a long, long time. I don't think that's a problem. And I think what it does is it helps players kind of learn what they should be doing in their role. So I'm Joe Schmo, just started playing the game. I don't really know what I'm doing, but, you know, maybe there's a tutorial that says, if you're top lane, here's a selection of top lane champions, and here's kind of what it's like. Here's who kind of the guys you'll be facing in top lane, and here's kind of what you want to be thinking of in top lane. And then something for jungle. Here are the kind of champions you want to play in the jungle. Here are the kind of champions you might be against in the jungle. Here's what you want to be doing in the jungle. Now, those sorts of things, yeah, they kind of enforce the current 2-1-1-2, or sorry, 1-1-1-2 meta that we have going on. But the kind of thing it does is help players adapt and help players learn and help players kind of establish, okay, so this is what I want to be doing if I'm in this position. And maybe players decide, hey, I actually really like supporting. Maybe the support tutorial teaches them how to, you know, maybe, you know, you build this redemption item, and then when you press the button, it does this big AoE heal, and you save your teammates with it. Wow, that's really cool. Maybe I want to play support more because I get to save people with this. That's really cool, right? That sort of a thing, I think, is what would make a really good tutorial, and that sort of a thing is what I think League needs in order to help players feel just better about learning the game in a way that doesn't require the community to teach them literally everything about who's a good jungler, who's a bad jungler, that sort of thing. So, but that's just kind of my opinion on the tutorial system. I don't think the current one we have is terrible, at least not the basic tutorial, but I do agree that it needs an upgrade, and it needs to just kind of teach people the raw basics and then give them the tools to help them learn further. So maybe there are links to Mobify or something so you can try out some builds that you find. Maybe there's some kind of champion test tool that's available for like levels 1 through 3 that kind of teaches you, hey, here's what this champion does, here's what this champion does. I don't know. But it might be interesting to take a look at these kinds of things. So let me know what you guys are thinking of the current tutorial and any of the ideas I proposed in this video down in the comment section. Would love to hear your guys' thoughts on the upcoming tutorial update or on the current one that we have right now that kind of sucks. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like. And if you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well. And if you're looking for more Grab the Lantern content, you can check out my blog, link down in the description. I upload an article just about each and every single day for your enjoyment. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it. And I'll talk to you all later.